I think there's so many different topics we could talk about, but what do you see happening currently in the United States? How do you assess our current conditions? Are you hopeful? Are you distraught? What's the path? If we're looking at our goal is to create a sustainable, loving, higher frequency country, at least for the U.S. now. I know there's the world out there. What are the teachings that you think we most need to know right now that might help us create a city of joy that's currently not a city of joy or a country of joy in our current world?
I think there are always two currents in this country. There are those who are on the path to revolutionary healing, to coming into a new consciousness, to being willing to look back at the past, to examine it. And I think that was really beginning to happen. COVID, right? I mean, I think COVID was a very, very, very painful period in that it revealed so much, and so many people died needlessly. But it was also a period of coming out of the kind of diabolical amnesia that we've lived in this country for so long, right? Forgetting that we're always on stolen land, forgetting that this country was born out of genocide towards the indigenous people, forgetting that there were 400 years of slavery and Jim Crow and everything that followed in mass incarceration, that there were all these things starting to happen. The revelation that we had no healthcare system. The revelation that we put nurses in garbage bags, right? The revelation that black and brown people were dying at faster rates than anybody because they didn't have access to healthcare. The revelation when George Floyd, with that horrible knee on his neck for 9 minutes, it exploded in the street and people began to wake up and come into consciousness. It was an amazing period of time. And I thought, okay, this is the beginning of the reckoning. This is the beginning. And of course, the forces that don't want to wake up, the forces that are terrified to face their history, to face our role in our history, whether we were there or not, we are all beneficiaries of that history, right? To wake up, they started to begin to say, no, this will not happen. No, this will not happen. We will push back, push back, push back, push back, push back. And every front, whether it's pushing back against, civil rights, whether it's pushing against, anti-racism training, whether it's pushing back against an abortion, whether it's pushing back transgender rights. It's just like push back, push back, push back, push. And so I think these two strains are happening. I think what we all have to do, and this is just what I'm really committing myself to do, is to say, where is it that people are hurting so much that they have turned their pain into violence? And how do we help people contact their pain and contact their trauma so we can release that violence? And that means sitting with people you might not want to talk to, and that means listening to people you might not want to talk to because they're politics. But it also means, where do I have violence in me? Where do I have a refusal in me? Where do I have a wall in me and an insistence on my rightness in every situation so that I can't allow myself to be open? That's one thing. And I think the other thing is, how do we build movements, deep, profound movements of solidarity and love, so we have each other's backs, so we stand with each other, so we struggle with each other. So if you have an issue that I don't have, I come and I struggle for your issue, and you come and struggle for my issue, and I struggle for your issue, and there's no hierarchy of suffering. There is one story. There is one story. We can't separate the ending of abortion rights from campaigns of colonialism. They are all the same story. And part of it is, how do we keep wrapping our struggles and wrapping our love together? And I just want to tell one story, because to me, it epitomizes this journey of opening ourselves. When I worked in this prison for 9 years or 8 years, one of the first things I did was I would run these groups. And women would come and we'd go around the circle and they'd tell their story from 1 to 5, one main incident, 5 to 10, and we would do it each week. And there was one woman in the group who really bugged me, and she kind of scared me, and I didn't like her. I just made a judgment about her, like creepy. And I didn't want her near me, and I hope she didn't talk, and I just had a really bad vibe about her. And I was just being honest. It was there. And the second group, she sat down next to me, and I was like, oh my God, she's sitting next to me. Okay, all right, okay. And all the women in the group were, all of them had done, very difficult crimes, and they were all, and I was just I was so into them because they were so honest, and they were sharing about their pain, and most of them, by the way, had been sexually abused and were sharing about their abuse, and then we got to her. I was like, oh my God, okay, here we go. And she told the story of her life. And she had been used by her stepfather and her mother essentially as a dildo. And she had been raped by both of them, and then she was sold to other people who used her and abused her and chained her to beds and treated her essentially like a sex toy. And eventually her mother died, and her father then had her go out and bring children in that he could abuse. And in the course of that, one of them died, and she came to prison. And she said, when I got here, I had no idea why I was here, because there was no moral reference point. No one had ever told me what I was doing was wrong, because that was all I had known. And she said, never let me out of here, because I don't know what I would do. And I started to cry, like I couldn't stop, because I realized I had made up a whole story about her. I had judged her, I had valued her, I devalued her, I didn't like the way she looked. And I made a commitment to myself from that day forward that I would assume that every person sitting next to me was a traumatized person, because they are, because you can't live in this world without being traumatized. And that I would wait to make judgments, to hear what they'd been through, and to hear their story. And I think if we all began to work on that higher level with each other, where we said, who are you?
Yeah.
What happened to you? What happened to you?
Yeah.
What happened to us? What happened to us that made us who we are?
Yeah.
Who hurt us? Who abused us? Who devalued us? Who told us we were stupid? Who locked us in closets? Who beat us with belts? Who chained us? What happened to you? Who told us that being black is less than being white? Who told us that being trans is less than being straight? Who did that? Who did that? Who harmed us? If we looked at each other and said that, everything would change immediately, because then we'd be connected at our helplessness.
Yeah.
Then we'd be connected at our vulnerability. And that is the only path we have forward. If we keep enlarging our violence, first of all, we can't beat any government with violence, because they have all the guns and they have all the ammunition. They will just annihilate us. So it's creating a bigger, beautiful, more amazing world that will be it's the only hope we have, I think.
Yeah.